Just about.
Okay, make sure you let me know. This is like,
Yep.
Inside
Okay.
baseball. We'll stop talking.
yeah, really.
Thanks, Ralph.
Thanks, Ralph.
We are now live. Thank you.
All right, all right. All right, so we will, now that we have the Reclamation District 900 trustees online, we have one absentee. We will begin the Board of Trustees January 19th meeting pursuant to the Government Code Section 54953 as amended by Assembly Bill 361. We are meeting remotely and via Zoom, and anybody who would like to participate in this meeting can go online and click on the Zoom link to participate or call in on the telephone number. We will now go to the General Administration Part 1, presentations by the public on matters not on the agenda. Within the jurisdiction of the district, the agency is prohibited by law from discussing any issues not on the agenda brought at this time. Are there any requests for public comment, Mr. General Manager?
There are no requests.
Thank you. Next, we'll go to consent agenda item 2. Are there any requests to pull any of the items from that consent agenda for discussion, questions? I'll accept a motion to approve.
Real quick, item number 3, the consideration of authorization to amend existing shared services agreement with the city of West Sacramento. I removed that. Ralph and I need to do a little more work on that. So that has been removed from the consent agenda.
I'll need that amended by whoever makes the motion.
This is Trustee Early. Oh, go ahead.
To approve the consent agenda with the removal of item 3?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And who seconded?
I'll call a second.
Okay. Okay, and with that, Mr. General Manager, can you please call the roll?
Trustee Supizio Hall.
Here, or aye, excuse me.
Trustee Early.
Aye.
Trustee Alcala.
Aye.
President Guerrero.
Aye. Next is our regular agenda item part 3. We have consideration to approve the Reclamation District 900 annual financial audit reports from fiscal year ending June 30th, 2021. And Mr. General Manager?
Yes, so I'd like to introduce Mary Ann Cropper. You may have met her over the last couple of years. She has done the audit on our books. So I've invited her to present her findings from the audit. Right now, it's a draft audit, but we're looking for approval of the draft. Ms. Cropper, myself, Dustin Dumars, our accountant, have gone through the report and agree to the findings. But with that, Ms. Cropper, if you would like to
Sure. Well, thank you. Happy to be with you via Zoom this year again, and I'm happy to go through whatever level of detail that you prefer, but and answer any of your questions. Let me just give you kind of the salient points, and then you can drill down on me or as you wish. This is the most important thing, is that the report that you've got in front of you, there should be actually 2 reports. One is the audited financial statements, and the second is what's called our required communications report. And that's directed directly to the board. And so hopefully you've got both of those. They're both in draft form, as Blake mentioned, and we can edit those according to any input that you might have as well. But the most important thing is that on the audited financials, you've got actually 2 audit opinions included in that report. One on the basic financial statements, and it's a clean audit opinion. In other words, the numbers are reflected in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. So we view those as a fair presentation. And then the second report really disclaims our audit opinion on any compliance. We're not doing an audit of compliance, but we do kind of opine on your internal controls over financial reporting, and you'll see a few recommendations there. They're the same recommendations really we've had for the last couple of years. There's been some transition. And also because the previous board of the former Reclamation 900, before you were a part of the city, the board was very active in internal controls, and that piece has kind of been lost. And so some of the recommendations we have relate to trying to kind of to figure out how you're going to have segregation of duties in a small business environment. And one of the things that Blake and I mentioned is that you might want to consider maybe an ad hoc type committee, advisory committee to, because the city council, it's not practical for you to get down in the nuts and bolts of approving transactions and so on like the old board used to, but you might be able to get some of the landowners or other willing folks, to kind of help out with some of that. So on a more an advisory but formal capacity. So that was just one thing that but I wanted to kind of give you some perspective on why those recommendations are still there. And also what you'll see too in some of the numbers, when the required communications document gives you all the detail of all the audit adjustments that we had, from the numbers that you looked at during the year during the financial reports to where you ended up during the audit. And you'll see a lot of those adjustments have to do with revenues and receivables and so on. And that needs to be fine-tuned a little bit as well. So anyway, I can go through that report in more detail, but I want to just kind of let you know that you ended up with a 1.3 bottom line on your government-wide financial statements. So a very good year and a very strong financial position. And then you've got another set of financial statements there, which are fund basis, which is where you actually budget at that level. Because in the government-wide, you have long-term receivables, you've got capital assets, you've got other post-employment benefit, actuarial assets and liabilities on your books. You don't budget that way. And so if you look in the back on pages like I think 29 or 30, you'll see a comparison to budget on the fund basis. And that again, you have, well over $1 million in a bottom line. And then you'll see the comparison to the actual budgeted numbers there. Most of that had to do with capital assets. You budgeted for a lot more in the Drever Street property, it looked like to me. You only incurred about $800,000 there this year. And then, some of the numbers on professional services and the like were, you budgeted far more than what you incurred. So you were favorable to budget. You had a great bottom line, and your balance sheet and your statement of net position are all strong. So that I'm happy to go through in more detail. There weren't any large accounting standards that had to be implemented this year. Most governments had to implement on the new lease standard, but you don't have any leases there that are other than month to month. And so we didn't have that. So that's probably as much details I'll go through unless there's something else that caught your eye.
Thank you. Are there any questions among the trustees?
This is Trustee Early. Can you hear me?
I can.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. It's just a small minor thing, but I see that former Trustee Ledesma is still on there and not Trustee Saprizio Hall. So that looks like that needs to be edited.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, you're right. If that's the
Mayor.
case.
Well,
I'm sorry,
that's
Norma, and I'm
Trustee
home now, so I was
Ledesma
wondering-
was on the board during that fiscal year.
I see. Okay.
So that's why we left his name on there. So
I see. Trustee Alcala?
Yes, I'm so sorry. I just got home, so I'd like to transfer into the Zoom, and I'm waiting to be let in. I've been on my
I'm
phone.
sorry,
so-
Norma.
Okay.
Not
So,
looking at it.
So Mary, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. I didn't know you weren't done yet. Go ahead,
Well,
trustee.
well, just because they responded to my note, but I guess where I'm thrown ever so slightly is, yes, Trustee Ledesma was the trustee at the time of that fiscal year, but the elected officials who are now adopting it are those here. So which names are actually supposed to line up on the report legally?
Yeah, legally, it's who was there during that time period.
Okay,
And
got it.
actually, we're going to be filing a report with the state controller's office, and it's the same thing where we let them know, who the trustees were during that time period. It is a little bit of out of sync, but that's how it works. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Marianne, I have a question on the recommendation to, work with the subcommittee. Is there, for the time being, can we let the GM work with Ralph and accounting to give us some advice for the next meeting? I
Yeah,
wasn't
I don't
prepared.
want to be too prescriptive on that because every organization's different. It might work. You certainly have, and I should say too, the audit went really smoothly, and you've got good people in place with Blake and with Dustin, and Linda's certainly stepped up and learned her job. It's just there's not very many of them, right? So the old board used to approve every check or sign every check. You simply don't have that that luxury. So you've got to kind of figure it out. And then you also have other inputs into the financial statements that are prepared by Linda, but not reviewed by anybody other than me. And that should be changed too. So you've got a lot of inputs that go directly into the financial statements that need some reviews. And you just have to sit down with Blake, Dustin, and Ralph, and whoever you like, and figure out who's going to do what. Yeah. I mean, you also need financial policies and procedures, and usually that's done at the same time. You can address segregation of duties at the same time that you write your policies and procedures.
All right. So I
And
think,
President Guerrero,
go ahead.
one of the items, speaking with Marianne about with our payroll, is maybe bringing in like an ADP or Paychex to issue our paychecks, but also do the calculations for PTO and sick leave and all of that. That was one of the items, and so we can get an outside firm to run that. And I think everybody has opinions on the different firms that do that. So we can work through it and find the best capable bodies to help us with payroll and keeping track of those items.
President Guerrero,
Yes.
My hand button isn't working, so I wanted to make sure I could. But only if you're done, President Guerrero.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay.
Trustee.
So I think what I'm hearing, and I want to make sure I reflect back, is that we've done a great job. However, one of the things that you are saying is that in regards to our fiduciary responsibility, that you are supposed to have checks and balances. That is, I think, what you're saying here. And that would be the point of, say, an audit committee, would be that you would have someone outside of those who did all of the work also checking and providing that oversight, I think, is what you're saying. And so I don't know if that would be appropriate, that it would be Ralph and Blake working together, especially if Blake is
Right.
if the individual.
Right, no.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it's not, but that's
Perfect.
not the recommendation. I was wondering if it would be them coming up with the recommend, because I think it's kind of, I wasn't prepared for making a recommendation on the next step.
Got it.
It was for them to advise us on the next step.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you for the clarification.
Exactly right. Yes, that's perfectly put.
Okay, that's all it was. And then so our next meeting, we can decide what would be our next step for that accountability.
Okay.
All right. And is this an action item to accept and approve?
Yes, that is correct. So we would look at the board to approve this draft financial audit. The city county is looking to get this ASAP for their books. So that was apologize for the late delivery of the board packet, but we were trying to wrap this up and a few other things. And but the city and county are looking for this ASAP. Trustee Sulpicia Hull, you have a question?
Yes, I agree on the next meeting or having recommended next steps. Is the next meeting give you enough time to do that, or do you need longer?
We will shoot for the next meeting because I think this has been ongoing for a year plus now. And so I would like to try to bring it to the board's attention in February. Of course, with all of the storms and the things that we're dealing with now, I'm hoping I get to it. And if not, I'll have to push it to the following months. But as of right now, we'll try to bring it to the February board meeting.
Thank you.
And with that, I'll open it up for public comment. Are there any requests to speak, Mr. General Manager?
There are no public comments.
Okay, I'll close the public comment, bring it back to the trustees, and for any further discussion or a motion to approve.
President Guerrero, I move to accept.
And I'm happy to second. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. General Manager, can you please call the roll?
Sure. Trustee Early,
Aye.
Trustee Hull, Sulpicia Hull,
Aye.
Trustee Alcala,
Aye.
President Guerrero.
All right. This item is approved, and next we'll go to the general manager updates.
And President Guerrero, I think we're losing your speaker on.
Oh, sorry. Next we'll go to the general manager updates. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Are we good?
All right. I can hear you now. Good. Thank you. Administrative and Mary Ann, thank you very much. If she's still on the line, she may have dropped off. So wanted to thank
She's
her
gone,
for-
Blake. She's gone.
Yep. She's out of here. A couple of administrative things. I'm working on getting a job announcement out for maintenance worker. I hope to have it by tomorrow. Been working on it, but with some of the requests for the storm events, it may get pushed to next week. So we've been down a maintenance worker for at least a year before my time. So we're trying to get that position filled here as soon as we can. So that announcement hopefully will get posted this week. As most of you are aware, our slope mower burned up in a fire back in July timeframe, and I do have a request out for bid that I got the request out today to purchase a new one. Insurance has sent us a check to cover the cost of the older one, but I've got a new request for bids to replace that, and hope to bring it to the board's attention at the February board meeting, or for board approval in the February meeting. So now all the fun, the rain, the storm that hit from basically before Christmas through the end of this last weekend. So staff did a great job working around the clock, watching pump stations and levees and drainage ditches and so on. And generally speaking, the RD 900s flood control systems held up extremely well. We had a few little hiccups with our pump stations of the power going out and this and that, but in general, everything ran appropriately. Those things we're working on some electrical hiccups with some of our electrical pump stations. We've got an electrical contractor coming out Monday to help troubleshoot a few of the issues, and so we'll work on those items. The city helped us out on a couple of things electrical wise, so that was extremely beneficial for our main pump station. We did you probably are aware, we had a couple of slumps on the levee, the east levee of the Deepwater Ship Channel. We did put plastic on that to prevent any further erosion. The city came out and assisted us. It was kind of a training exercise for the city. Most of their staff has not been through flood fight training with DWR, so this was hands-on to help them, and everybody came out on a Sunday to put the tarp on, and they did a great job. So that's on one of the slip outs now. Again, this is the Deepwater Ship Channel. The embankment in that area is roughly 250 feet wide. There's not any concern of failure or overtopping of that portion of levee. It just has a slump in it. You see dirt has slid down the hill from the levee. So again, nothing bad with that one. A couple other little erosion sites just south of the Sacramento Weir that our guys have filled in already. Some of our ditches, canals, we're starting to bank erosion. So we've got to go drive those and prepare costs to repair some of those areas. If we don't, we're going to lose our access road. So it will get higher priority as the days move on. Other than that, like I said, we had a relatively, I won't say easy go at it, because we were working around the clock to make sure everything functions correctly. Our pump stations are all manually operated, though they work on floats. So when water gets so high, they turn on. But if we have a problem, we don't know that they shut off. We don't have the electronics that warn us in our main office. So we have to physically go out there and check on the pump. So every few hours, we have folks running around making sure all the pumps were running. So yeah, that's the primary dealings we had with these 2 weeks of storms. So I think everybody's tired and ready to take a full weekend off. So I think everybody's looking forward to this weekend. So maybe the sun will come out. At the beginning, or at the end of December, we also completed rocking the access road along the seepage berm in Southport. There was some issues over the summer and winter with the berm itself leaching sand into the city's stormwater system. And so we went out before the end of the year and rocked it to prevent as much sediment getting into the stormwater system. So that will be a reimbursable item under the flood map DWR program. Let's see, Blacker Canal is moving forward. Our consultants have submitted permits for Fish and Wildlife and for the Regional Water Quality Control Board. We will be paying the different fees. The Fish and Wildlife fee is roughly $6,200, and the water quality certification is just over $2,000. Again, we're still targeting 2023 construction on Blacker Canal. Now the nasty one, the sewer lines within our office failed completely, or had been failing and failed completely. All the drains were backed up, toilets wouldn't flush. So I called out a plumber to take a look at it. They ran cameras through the sewer system, our sewer system, and they're old steel lines that run under the foundation or through the foundation of the building. There's roughly 300 feet of sewer line that runs through the building. Most of the steel sewer line was eroded, cracked, or corroded. So it was plugged up, blocked, debris in it, and I authorized the repair of the sewer line. And of course, they could only do sections at a time because this building is so old. There are no cleanouts in the building. And so they had to look at sections of it and then create cleanouts to do other sections of it. And unfortunately, the total bill on that is about $105,000 to slip line the entire sewer system within the building. The other option was to tear up the entire floor, cut through the concrete floor, and replace all the pipes, which would have been significantly more than slip lining the pipe. So that was the unfortunate. They're still working on the project. This started just right after Christmas, and they're still working on the project. So we actually have running water, flushing toilets, but there's a couple of lines that have not been completed. So they're still working on that right now. So it's been a all day, all night. The sewer crews, and this a private contractor, has been out there working until 7, 8, 10 o'clock at night to try to get this thing fixed as quickly as possible. And they've done a great job and really helped us out. But it's a long process to slip line all of these pipes. So that's the bad news with our building. It's just old, and we keep finding a lot of issues with it, unfortunately. The roof. Anybody have any questions on that one before I move on? That one was a doozy.
Are there any questions among the trustees? Nope. Okay, no, keep going, Blake.
Great. Our roof replacement has been put on hold because of all of the rain, unfortunately. But they did come out and put some temporary patches. So we do not have water coming through the roof into the office. So that's been extremely helpful at this point. But as soon as I should be hearing from them anytime now, because I think we have about 10 days of clear weather. So hopefully they can get us on their schedule to re-roof our building. I've just left the office landscaping and office signage on my report. I haven't done anything about it with everything else going on. We'll get to those eventually. Let's see.
Blake,
Yes.
just real quick. This is Trustee Early. I was trying to quickly unmute and I couldn't unmute fast enough. So on the plumbing and the $100,000 bill, I just want to make sure I'm still again learning all these things. Obviously, that's not something that we budgeted for, and so my immediate thought would be, how is that going to impact this year's budget, and is there room for it?
Yes. So fortunately, yes, we have money to cover the sewer costs. So that's the good news. But it was not budgeted. So I think what I'll do with our accountant is we'll go back through the budget and make changes to the budget and bring it back to the board just to show some of those changes, because there is some equipment also that we needed to purchase that was not part of the original budget also. So I think it makes sense to update our budget for the year and bring it back before the board. Okay,
I think my main concern would be, is that going to put us between the equipment and the unexpected sewer? Is that going to put us in a deficit for this year's budget? I think that's my main concern.
We've got a tremendous savings account, and so we will dip into that savings account. So from a financial standpoint.
So savings, right? So savings, so having the money versus budgeting the money, right, are technically two different things. And so
sure, right.
Again, I'm unsure of what our revenues were in regards to our spending, and whether in that way it puts us in a deficit, not whether we have the savings to cover it. And it sounds like you're going to work with your finance guy.
Yeah, we'll go through and bring it to the board. I have not looked at it, but yes, you're correct. There's a savings, and the budget. We should be well under budget because we've budgeted additional staff that.
Great. So you'll have salary.
We have not. We don't have yet, but some of these costs would exceed staff salaries. So.
Okay, thank you. And I am now President Guerrero had to jump off. And so I am now, as I think her vice president, I'm taking over. And Trustee Alcala, I see that you have your hand raised.
Yes, I just had a quick question. So is that savings a reserve, or is it something separate?
Greg, do you have a thought on that by chance?
Well, it's not an official reserve. but it is part of the district's overall cash position. And so, you know, there's the funds that the district has versus the budget. Now, the budget is a very small subset of what the district's cash position and overall fund balance is. And so I think the best way to describe this is not an official reserve, but it is can be handled by the district's cash position. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I understand that, Greg. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Greg. Any other questions related to? All right, I'll move on to the next. As for all of the emergency preparedness, we've been reporting to the fire marshal and daily contact with the City Public Works as these storms have gone through. So I think things have calmed down, and all agencies within the Yolo County are working on repair costs to submit to FEMA. So from the city, the RDs, all the special districts will be reporting damages and costs to Yolo County for submission to Cal OES/FEMA for potential reimbursement. So stay tuned as time rolls on with that. I mentioned previously trying to get in contact with the California Conservation Corps for any potential assistance, from sandbagging to flood fighting, etc. We had contacted them previously, and they were pretty well staffed out. So this time would have been a difficult to get staff through CCC. So we'll continue to keep them in our loop in the event that we do need additional staffing support and flood fight support in the future. Let's see, DWR, Ralph, Greg and I actually met with DWR, their real estate group, about their Yolo Bypass, Salmonid Habitat Restoration and Fish Passage project. Basically, they're trying to get more water down the Tule Canal for salmon, and I think what they will basically need from the district is an additional flowage easement. That we'll be working with Ralph to create that language to get the permits put together. It's I'll say it's in the infinite I can't say it. It's in the early stages for our part, but they have started construction up at the Fremont Weir, so they're just working downstream, and they will need flowage easement or flowage rights through the district's property or easements. So those will get modified here over time. So we're waiting for the state to present us with their thoughts on those easements. With that, Greg, is there anything you'd like to add from the West Safeca?
Just an update on the federal project. So as I've reported to the board previously, we have the Yolo Bypass East Levee project, which has been completely designed in concert with the Corps. There's two reaches: the South Reach, which is just south of I-80, and there's the North Reach, which is just north of I-80 and behind the location of the city's new courtyard. The Corps is on schedule for going out to bid for construction at the end of March of this year for the South Reach. It is possible that they'll be able to get their proverbial act together to go out to bid for the North Reach a little bit later in the summer. So we can expect the South Reach to go to construction this calendar year, and the North Reach either late in the calendar year or very early in calendar 2024. The appropriations for fiscal year 23 were approved at the end of last calendar year. So the Corps currently has, between FY22 and FY23, pretty close to $100 million for the West Sacramento project. So they're well positioned to do both construction projects on Yola Bypass, the south and the north, as well as continue to design on the Sacramento River North Levee. That's between the Sac Bypass and the Deepwater Ship Channel, where the Stone Lock area. And then they're also going to begin design on the Stone Lock solution as well this calendar year. So there's lots of work going on over at the Corps for our project. And then the one last thing I'll update the board on is there's talk of our project becoming a mega project, which for all practical purposes means that they'll hire more staff to do more things at the same time, and also enables us to receive a little bit additional federal funding. So that's the direction it seems to be heading, and I can report out to the board in future meetings on how that effort is proceeding. So that's about what I have to report, and happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Greg.
Do any of the trustees have any additional questions for Greg or for Blake?
Nope.
Okay.
Not a question. Just want to say thank you for all your work these past 2 weeks.
Thank you. Everybody worked hard and worked together. It worked well.
Okay, great. Well, then, if there are no other comments, again, thank you all. We can adjourn the meeting. Have a good rest of your week, guys.
Good night, everyone.
Thank
Good night.
you.
Good night.
Good night.